All right, now that we have got our ground wires all connected up and ready to go, what we want to be able to do before we go and do the next circuit or next part of our circuit, we want to check that it is all connected and working properly. So looking at your welds, or your solders, sorry, and making sure that it's looking secure and well filled out without having big blobs or looking dry. So I'm happy with how they look. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to check for continuity. And what that means is basically I've got connection between each of the points that's required. So for that, I'm going to use my multimeter. I'm going to flip it up to this setting here, which I'm going to then cycle through to see this symbol up here, which is for the continuity. So what should happen is when I touch those together and complete a circuit, it's basically sending a small current through this to be able to check whether that coming through. So I'm going to go to this end of the wire, select that one there, and what I should be able to do, we can see through here it's come in on this side. So if I select that, it's beeping at me. That's awesome. That's what I want to see. Then I'm going to check my next point. And you can see he's connecting there too. Go over to the next one. And he's connecting there. And then last one. He's connecting there. So I'm happy, and this is something I need you to check, that you have your connections all working, all linked up. So ground is done. The next thing we need to do is going to be we're going to put the voltage on. So for these ones, we're going to, if we have a look, it's the next one down from 5 volt. I think you can just see that there. So that's the next one down is going to be my 5 volt. He's going to come round to the other side of this one, to the other side of that one, and then the opposite side here. So remember how potentiometers work, where we've got the middle, which we call the wiper, and the current is running through these two, and the wiper moves around, increasing or decreasing the resistance on how much it's reading through. So the wiper is the one that we're going to be reading for signal. So let's have a look at how that works. So I'm going to start by, I think, connecting up to this guy again. So I'm going to remove a little bit of that end wire. There it goes. I'm going to get a little bit of my spare red wire that I already grabbed, and we're going to connect those together. Let's see if I can do a better job this time. So that's kind of in place. I'm going to then grab my solder. Again, still on the roll. Check the tip. It looks fairly clear. I've got my safety glasses and the fan on. And again, I'm going to go from the bottom and add the solder from the top, because I need to be able to add heat to both parts of it. And that's heaps on there. I already had some solder on the other one. So the challenge now is I need to be able to get them attached. Not quite, I was a little bit eager. Let's try that again. See them both melt a little bit. And again, come on. Okay, both. There it goes. All right. So that's now connected in. That's happy days. All right. So again, I'm going to bring this guy around to that side. So probably about that much distance. Remove the end. Grab the next one. Put them together. A little bit of solder to tin them, because it makes it a whole lot easier when we go to connect them. So he's there. I'm going to add a little bit of solder to him. Again, get the heat on it. There it goes. So I don't need heaps, but that's enough. I'm going to add a little bit to the other side. Make sure I don't melt things that I don't want to. So heat from one side, add the solder to the other. That should be heaps. And then nice and carefully work him around. Heat him back up. So a little bit on there. Heat from one side. And that looks like it has almost connected. And often you can tell if you've had a good connection because it will melt if you try and heat it for too long. Alright, looking at that, that looks better. We've got adhesion on both sides of the wire. That's looking good, and I should be able to then trim a little bit of that extra side off just to tidy it up. So we want to make sure that there's no possibility of the sides connecting, but that looks good. I'm going to bring this guy around to here and repeat the process. Okay, so it ends off both of them, wind them together. And then get that tinning, so a little bit on him from one side. And again, we don't need heaps. Now, the other way you can try and do these is on the end of these, you can try and sneak them through the hole if you've got that capability, or like we've been doing, we heat from one side, add the solder to it, and we're just going to heat those back up. With a little bit of, it always works a little bit better if you've got a bit of solder on the tip, because that seems to help conduct the heat a whole lot better. Okay, so I was a little bit heavy with the solder on that one. He's there, trim off that end, and that's looking all right. Then the last one comes around and we're going to get it onto that side. About there. Trim it off, and this guy doesn't need a partner. But what we can do with this one is notice how there's the little hole in there, so you can actually pop him in that and tin it from there, and then attach it through that hole as well if that's a preferable option. As long as you've got connection, so we could drop him in there and add some solder over the top. But what I want to do first is I'm probably just going to use the solder that I've already got on the top there. Add a little bit to him. Remember, if it's starting to not look shiny, we can always clean them off with the brass sponge. And that one looks good. So I've got now my ground and my 5-volt power source coming through. Before I go on to the next point, I want to make sure that that continuity is there again. So I'm going to trim off a little bit of the end of this wire, and I'm going to check that again. Awesome. So red wire this time. Keep him separate. And I'm going to check there. So we've got that there. We've got that there, there, and there. So I'm happy that that has connection all the way through. I'm happy the solders aren't too heavy. I haven't melted my plastic buttons, which is really important. I'm ready to go on to adding each of my connections here next. So that's ready to go. We'll go through the next video.